Good day, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Um, my name is Chris Cabingas, and we are pleased to you today to present our topic, fiction. So, first things first, at the end of the lesson, the student is expected to first know the various elements, techniques, and literary devices in fiction and determine various modes of fiction. So prose is that broad genre of literature that is written in paragraph form. So basically, it differs from poetry in the sense that it does not have measure and rhyme besides rhythm with sustained regularity. So all genres of prose except essays rather, have the following elements such as setting, characters, theme, plot, conflict, and point of view. Fiction and drama and essay are categorized as prose works. Serving as a counterpart of narrative poetry, fiction includes prose works that tells a story. It is classified into short stories, novels, and novelettes. A short story is a narrative prose that has 1 to 10 pages, a single setting, few characters, a single theme, and a simple plot. Because it is short, it is read in one sitting only. So, short stories are categorized into stories of plot, stories of theme, stories of character, stories of atmosphere or setting, and plotters. On the other hand, a novel is a narrative prose that has about 50 pages or more, multiple setting, many characters, a plurality of themes, and complicated plot. Because of its length, no, it is read in more than one sitting. Novels are classified into detective novels, romantic novels, philosophical novels, historical novels, religious novels, symbolic novels, and so on. We have also the realistic, the stream of consciousness, novels of the sea, novels of the souls, and so on. And a novelette or a short novel is a narrative prose intermediate between a novel and a short story. So again, we will going to proceed to the next topic. So let's have Miss Texon for the differences between a short story and a novel. Thank you.
Novels and short stories vary in terms of their length, the extent to which characters are developed, the intricacy of the plot, and the depth of their subject matter. Novels generally possess more complex storylines, multiple subplots, and well developed characters as a result of the extended length. Whereas short stories, on the other hand, concentrate on a singular plot or theme with fewer characters and a narrower scope. Novels facilitate in depth exploration of themes and ideas, whereas short stories prioritize brevity and concise storytelling. In addition, novels offer greater opportunities for in depth character development and the creation of broad fictional worlds when compared to short stories.
So now let's discuss about the characters. Characters refer to the persons, animals, plants, inanimate objects, and natural and supernatural beings that possess life and give life to the story. So it extends by possessing life in the context of the story. These entities contribute to the narrative's vitality, whether through their actions, interactions, or even symbolic significance. Essentially, characters serve as a dynamic elements that animate the story, driving its progression and engaging the audience in various ways. So now let's move on to the different types of characters. First, protagonist. It is the character around whom the story revolves. Traditionally or conventionally, an outstanding character with good traits. It is the main character whom the story revolves. So for example, in the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. Next, antagonist. The character who is opposed to protagonist. This character may be a major character or a minor one. So antagonist is the counterpart of the main character and the source of the main conflict. So for example, Lord Voldemort in Harry Potter series. Next type of character is confidant. The character upon whom the protagonist confides or relies for support. This character serves as a support figure, providing emotional support, advice, or assistance to the protagonist. Confident characters help to deepen the protagonist's characterization and may play significant roles in protagonist's journey or decision-making process. So for example, Hermione Granger, who often supports and advises Harry Potter in the Harry Potter series. Next, foil character. It is the character who serves as a contrast to the protagonist or any other character in the story, but does not necessarily oppose the latter. The purpose of foil is to enhance the reader's understanding of the main character by presenting contrasting traits or experiences. So for example, also in Harry Potter series, Draco Malfoy contrasts with Harry Potter, showcasing different values and behaviors. Next type of character is the background character. The character who provides reality to the story by his or her mere presence. They typically have minimal impact on the main plot or narrative arc and may not have significant development or backstory, but they helped create a sense of realism and immersion in the story by filling out the environment with additional personalities and interactions. For example, students in Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Next type of character is the unseen or absent. It is the character who is mentioned in the story but does not necessarily have involvement in the series of actions or in the dialogue. This character does not participate in the series of actions or dialogue and they remain off screen. But their presence may be significant in shaping other characters' motivation, backstory, or even the overall plot, even though they are not directly involved. So for example, the Harry Potter's parents who are deceased but have a significant impact on the story. The next type of character is the dynamic character. It is a character who changes his personality as the story progresses. They evolve in response to the events and conflicts they encounter, leading to the transformation in their beliefs, attitudes, and personality traits by the story's conclusion. So, for example, Ebenezer Scrooge in Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. So, next type of character is the static character. It is a character who remains the same kind of person as the story progresses. So, static characters typically maintain the same traits, attitudes, and behaviors from the beginning of the story to the end. So, for example, Gandalf in J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of Rings remain wise and steadfast in his mission. So the next type of character is the round character. It is a character who shows varied and sometimes contradictory traits, but they can evoke empathy and understanding from the audience due to their realistic portrayal and nuanced personality traits. Example here is Severus Snape in the Harry Potter series, whose motivations and actions are revealed gradually. So the second to the last type of character is the flat character. a character who shows only one personality trait. So, a flat character has only one personality traits throughout this story. So, for example, Dudley Dursley in Harry Potter series, who is consistently portrayed as spoiled and selfish. And the last type of character is stereotype. It is a flat character of a familiar and often repeated type. So, for example, is the evil stepmother in many fairy tales, representing cruelty and jealousy without much depth or development. So that's all for my part.
Good day, everyone. I am Josabel Marie Buhok. I will be discussing the point of view. Point of view refers to the angle of narration. It indicates who is the narrator and how is the narration done. The first is first person autobiographical POV. The POV in which the narrator is the central character or one of the major or minor characters or simply bystander or an observer. Imagine you're telling a story about yourself using I and me. So you're directly involved in the event, either as the main character or a part of the story. It's like you're sharing your personal experiences, thoughts, and feelings. Next is the omniscient third person POV. The POV in which the narrator is an all knowing and all seeing observer who tells everything speech, actions, thoughts, and emotions about the characters. So, um, picture someone watching the story unfold from above, seeing everything that's happening and knowing everything about the characters. So this narrator can share not only what characters say and do, but also what they think and feel. It's like having a bird's eye view of the entire story. Next is the objective third person POV. The POV in which the narrator is an objective observer reports only the speech, what he hears, and the actions, what he sees of the characters. Think of this as watching a movie where the camera simply records what's happening without getting into anyone's head. The narrator stays distant and objective, only showing what characters say and do. Like a reporter giving the fact without any personal opinions or insights. The last one is the selective third person POV. The POV in which the narrator is both an omniscient and an objective observer. It is a combination of omniscient third person and objective third person. Again, imagine a narrator who knows a lot about this story and characters but doesn't share everything. It's like having a friend who knows some secrets but only tells you certain parts. So this narrator can switch between being all knowing and staying objective, but depending on what's needed for the story. So each POV or person point of view offers a different perspective on the event and characters in a story, giving readers unique insight and experiences. So that's all for my parts.
Hello, good day. This is Myrtle Joy Tipasa. And for my part, I will be discussing about the plot. The plot and structure of a short story, or otherwise known as a story arc, is the logical order in which events happen in the story. So the first is exposition. It is the start or introduction of the story, the background information that the reader must have in order to understand the story. This is where characters' settings are introduced. Next is rising action. All of the events that take place leading up to the climax. This is where the reader is introduced to the conflict. Climax, the most exciting part of the story, the turning point in the story. Here is when the story is turned in a different direction toward the conclusion. Falling action, the immediate reaction to the climax. All the actions that occur after the climax and before the conclusion of the story. So, conclusion, the part of the story's plot where the main problem is resolved or worked out. The resolution occurs after the falling action and is typically where the story ends. Another term for resolution is denouement, which comes from the French term denou, meaning to untie. So that's it for my part. Thank you for listening. God bless.
Now let us proceed to the next element, which is the setting. Setting refers to the time and place in which the events of the narrative takes place. It includes not only the physical environment in which the characters interact, but also cultural, sociological, political, religious, and other milieus, as well as the ideas, customs, values, and beliefs of a particular time and place. So basically, when you say setting, it is the time and place where the story unfolds. It can be as broad as a historical era or as specific as a single room in the house. But it's more than just a location. It's about creating a whole environment that shapes the story. So we have here examples, the local, the place where the story plays. So the local is the place. This is the physical location of the story. It could be a real place like Cagayan de Oro City, or a fictional world like the Middle Earth. So the place can also be more specific, such as a spaceship or an island. So next we have the time. So the time is when the story takes place. So when you say time, this could be anything from a specific year in the past or future to a more general time period. So the time period can influence things like the characters' technology, the social norms, and even their way of speaking. So in setting, we have also the social and cultural environment. So when you say social and cultural environment, this refers to the broader social and cultural conditions that surround the characters. So this could include things like the political climate, the class system, or the prevailing attitudes about a certain topic. So now let's have another example, which is the physical environment. So the physical environment describes the tangible aspects of the location, like the weather, the terrain, and any specific buildings or landmarks that play a role in the story. So the physical environment can create atmosphere, present obstacles for the characters, or even become a character itself in some story. So why setting is important? Setting can evoke emotions and create a mood for the story. It also presents challenges or opportunities for the characters, influencing their actions and decisions. Now let's have Miss Maven Ligaya for the another element.
I'm Maven Ligaya. I'm going to continue the discussion about the elements of fiction. So the next element that we're going to discuss is conflict. Conflict is being synonymous with opposition, the motivating driving force that involves both characters and readers in narratives. So in simple word, or in other words, the conflict in fiction refers to the struggle between opposing forces that drives the story forward and creates tension. So this conflict can be seen between the characters, within a character, or between a character and external forces like nature or society. So these are the types of conflict. First, we have the social conflict, or the man versus man. The conflict which exists between the protagonist and the antagonist, or main character and the opposing character. Next is the physical conflict, or the man versus nature. The conflict which exists between the protagonist and any of the natural forces. Example, water, fire, earth, wind, and as well as diseases. Next is the metaphysical conflict, or the man versus supernatural beings. The conflict which exists between the protagonist and the supernatural beings or forces. Example, fairies, vampires, werewolves, witches, and so on. And lastly, the internal, personal, psychological conflict, or the man versus himself. The conflict which exists between the protagonist and his own self. This is an eternal conflict. This is especially true when the character is in the state of dilemma, during which he is faced with two or more narratives. So, the conflict is important in fiction because it keeps the readers engaged and also drives the plot forward by creating obstacles that characters must overcome to achieve their goals, and adds excitement and suspense, making the story more compelling and memorable. So I will give now the virtual floor to the next discussant.
Let's have theme and other elements. So theme represent the central idea or message that the author intends to convey through the narrative. It is the underlying concept that ties the story together and provide insight into the author's perspective on a particular subject or issue. Themes can vary widely, ranging from love, friendship, and betrayal to justice, power, and identity. For example, in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, the theme of love versus hate is prominent, emphasizing the destructive consequences of feuding families. We have tone. Tone refers to the emotional quality or attitude conveyed by the author towards the subject matter or characters in the story. It sets the overall mood and atmosphere of the narrative, influencing how readers interpret and respond to the text. Tone can be conveyed through the author's choice of language, imagery, and narrative voice. For instance, a story with a tragic tone may evoke feelings of sadness and despair, while a humorous tone can elicit laughter and amusement. Lastly, we have atmosphere, so encompasses the broader sensory and emotional environment created by the narrative. It is the overall mood or ambience that pervades the literary piece, evoking a sense of place and time. Atmosphere can be created through descriptions of setting, weather, and sensory details, as well as through the interactions and emotions of the characters. For example, a story set in a gloomy, fog-covered land may evoke a sense of mystery and foreboding, while a sunny, bustling cityscape may evoke feelings of warmth and vitality. So together, theme, tone, and atmosphere work in harmony to enrich the reader's experience and deepen their understanding of the text. They provide layers of meanings and nuance, inviting readers to engage with the story on both intellectual and emotional levels, and ultimately to contemplate its broader significance in relation to their own lives and world around them.
Today we're going to tackle about literary devices. First, metaphor. As you can observe in the figure, metaphor is a powerful tool that allows writers to convey abstract ideas or emotions by comparing two unlike things. It creates vivid imagery and adds depth to the narrative. For example, her heart was a fragile glass, easily shattered by the slightest touch. It compares the fragility of a heart to a glass, so conveying vulnerability and sensitivity. Next literary device is simile. We need to understand that simile involves comparing two unlike things, but it uses like or as to make the comparison more explicit. It helps to create vivid imagery and enhance the reader's understanding. For instance, the night was as dark as coal. It compares the darkness of the night to coal, emphasizing its depth and imperpetuality. Symbolism is also a literary device that involves the use of symbols to represent ideas, concepts, or themes beyond their literal meaning. So, symbol add layers of meaning to the text and allow readers to interpret the narrative on a deeper level. For example, a dove symbolizes peace, while a serpent symbolizes evil, as seen in many religious and cultural contexts. Personification gives human characteristics to non-human entities or abstract concepts, breathing life into them and making them more relatable. It adds depth and emotion to the narrative. Next is alliteration. Alliteration involves the repetition of consonant sound at the beginning of words within close proximity. It adds rhythm and musicality to the writing, making it more engaging and memorable. Onomatopoeia uses a word that imitates the sounds they represent, adding sensory depth to the writing and bringing scenes to life. It enhances the reader's experience by allowing them to hear the sounds as they read. Irony occurs when there is a contrast between the expected outcome and the actual outcome. Often used for humor or to highlight contradiction, it adds complexity to the narrative and encourages readers to think critically about the text. Hyperbole involves exaggerating statements or claims for emphasis or effect, not meant to be taken literally. It adds emphasis and intensity to the narrative, highlighting key moments or emotions. Foreshadowing hints at future events in the narrative, building anticipation and tension. It adds depth to the story and encourages readers to speculate about what will happen next. Imagery uses vivid and descriptive language to appeal to the senses, allowing readers to visualize scenes and settings. It creates a rich sensory experience that immerses readers in the story. Allusion refers to a brief and indirect reference to a well-known person, place, event, or work of literature. It adds depth and layer of meaning to the text by drawing on cultural or literary references. Flashback is a literary device that interrupts the chronological flow of the narrative to depict events that happened earlier. Now, it provides context, backstory, and insight into characters' motivation and development. Suspense is the intensity of feeling, anticipating, or tension that keeps readers engaged and eager to know what will happen next. Juxtaposition involves placing two or more ideas, characters, or images side by side. For comparing or contrast, it highlights their differences or similarities, allowing readers to explain complex themes and relationships within the text. Now, let's tackle about the literary techniques. Imagery involves the use of vivid and descriptive language to appeal to the senses, enabling readers to visualize scenes and settings. By employing imagery, writers paint detailed pictures in the mind of the readers. Next, we have symbolism. Symbolism is the practice of using symbols to represent abstract ideas, concepts, or themes that extend beyond their literal meaning. Symbols can imbue a story with deeper layers of meaning, enriching the reader's understanding and interpretation. Now, figurative language is also a literary technique. It conveys abstract ideas, emotion, or a way of the writer to give and provide imaginative way and also create a deeper understanding for its text. Foreshadowing is a literary device where hints or clues about future events are subtly woven into the narrative, building anticipation and tension. Flashback is a narrative device where a scene from the past is inserted into the present timeline of the story. Dialogue is a conversation between characters that reveals their personalities, relationships, and advances the plot. Dialogue brings characters to life and enhances their authenticity. It can convey emotions, motivations, conflicts, driving the story forward and engaging the readers in the narrative. Point of view refers to the perspective from which the story is narrated. It influences how readers interpret events and empathize with characters. Characterization encompasses the techniques used to develop characters, such as direct description, dialogue, actions, and thoughts. Through characterization, authors bring characters to life, making them relatable and multidimensional. Suspense is the intensity, feeling of anticipation or tension that keeps readers engaged and eager to know what will happen next. Conflict is the central problem or tension in a story that drives the plot forward and creates drama. Finally, theme. Theme is a literary device that focuses on the central idea or message of the story that explores universal truths about human nature, society, or life. Themes can be explicit or implicit according to the authors, and also often conveyed through character arcs, plot events, symbolism. They provide insight into the deeper meaning of the narrative, resonate with readers on a personal level.
Moving on to the atmosphere. So the atmosphere is likely one of the business-like practicality as an outset. So the above profession as a matchmaker and Stitchkin is a client looking for a wife in a straightforward and practical manner. So, and however, the story progresses where the atmosphere shifts into romantic awkwardness arising from the proposal of Stitchkins about love for the matchmaker herself. So, in a tone, the story's tone is blended of dry humor and gentle warmth. So Chekhov's characteristic with is evident in the characters' personalities and their conversations. So there are also a subtle underlying warmth as the story explores the unexpected development of their connection. For the moral lesson of the story tells us that love can happen in unexpected ways and places, that it can defy expectations and challenge societal norms. So the story tells us that love really moves in mysterious ways, that it can happen in any place, in any time, and it could be in to any person. And also, the story tells us that if we take risks, if we take our chances, if we seize our chances, it can end up being the best choices that we made in our lives. And that outcome may be good or better than what we have been overthink of or ever imagined. And that would be all for this reporting about the elements of fiction. And I hope that everyone learned something from this report. Thank you very much.